I'm sorry? Okay. Good morning, Sangha, or good afternoon. I'd like to make a few announcements. Just a reminder that this evening we will have our novena service. So if you can, if you're able to join us, that'll be live on YouTube. Also, this weekend, starting tomorrow and running through Sunday, we will have a wonderful weekend with Ofosu, who's going to be joining us for some guided and sitting and walking meditation, as well as wonderful sound bath. So if you're able to, please go to our website to the retreat listings and sign up for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Sorry, everyone. Yes, I did. It's an email. But that was a important call. It was based on our uh, the work that we did last year for uh, the school system in providing a summer school for um, migrant workers' children. And so we just got a call to collaborate with school because they have many right now who have not been in school. You know, we provide internet. Sorry, I was walking. I want to say running. That's why I'm out of breath, but that's not true. I was walking from the mother house. Um, so we provided, you know, what do you call that? Broadband internet service in the trailers. We provide that to a number of families, but there are some kids who are not able to learn because they have um, language handicaps and so forth, and they're falling grossly behind. And so a grant has been offered to provide classroom instruction, which would include paying for teachers um, to teach them, and they and and providing the space for them to come because they cannot come into the school system. So, you know, your gift makes room uh, for you in the world. If you're wondering what it is that one should be doing, it's handling whatever comes in front of you if you have the capacity to do it. You know, so we don't have to go looking for projects and looking for things to do. That's being busy. That's like busybody. But when something crosses your screen, if you know, if not you, who? Do we say go over there? Somebody else that needs to be taken care of. Who's going to do it? If it comes across your screen and you have the skill, if you have the great wish to ease that suffering, you know, sometimes it takes a sacrifice from what we personally might want to do something that needs to be done in the world. This is where we are. We are in this world of suffering. And so if we're not doing something to ease the suffering, you know, I mean, our own, but not just our own, then, you know, what's the purpose? Oh, well, we know why we're here, but how could we make benefit uh, from being here? And I feel like it's our great it's a great gift to us. It's a great boon to us. I don't know. Is this microphone? Can they hear me out there? I just want to make sure. Okay, because I'm not. It's not looking at me. Um, uh, it's a great boon to have an opportunity to me uh, to serve. Um, to have an option. I think that it is a way that I also maybe retire some debts. Uh, you know, so when all the bills are paid, no need to come back here. So that's just the way I look at I look at it, and it's more of a boon for me, you know, and than for the person that I serve. Honestly, that's that's a true thing. And so when it hits your heart in that way, it is for you to do. If it doesn't hit your heart in that way, maybe it's not for you to do. So I'm not passing judgment on that. I'm just saying if it is in your heart, then you should listen to your heart, regardless of what others think. Even when it costs you something, you know for yourself that it is not costing you. It is actually to your great benefit and to your great joy. So I'm sorry I was a few minutes late. So today we're going to we're not breakoutable, or we are today. That's the question. Where we broadcasted. I mean, we can? Okay. And how many people do we have? Okay, that's a good number. Okay. So, as I said, this year is going to be a year of, um, and because I'm far enough away, and sister, if you want to scoot back more, you can. Because I'm far enough away from everybody in this room, way more than 6 feet, maybe just only 8 for you though. So if you want to scoot back more, that's okay. That they could hear me better without the mass muffling. So that's some. I'm not gonna wear it, but I'm also not gonna sing. So don't worry. Um, so this year is a year of really putting the Dharma into practice. We talk about embodying it, and we do get it in us through the mumbling, through the remembering, through the reciting, through, just the constant washing of the words over us because we have all of this internal dialogue, conversation, chatter inside. We're talking to ourselves all the time. That's why when people walk around talking to themselves out loud, it doesn't bother me, because I talk to myself too. I just don't always do it out loud, so people think I'm crazy. But there's this constant conversation going on all the time. But there's something else that we have to do, So it's not just getting the gist of things. It's not just getting the idea. It's not through regurgitating the precepts, but it's also following the example, giving all that we have. We may not have as much as some others to give, but such as I have, I freely give. It's that kind of mind that uh, I may not have the great words of enlightenment, but I can say that comes from my own mind, such as I have, I freely give. And so I can share that, share whatever you have on whatever level you're on. The Buddha said it's best to learn from a Buddha, but if one's not around, learn from somebody who, is really steeped in the Dharma and practicing the Dharma. But if one's not around, learn from somebody who knows the Dharma, even if they don't practice it and one is not around, then, learn from someone who knows some Dharma at least. So there are, and I believe that it's karmic. There gradations. Is that a word? There are, yeah, okay. So there are gradations of that we can. A third grader doesn't need a 12th grade teacher. Third grader needs a teacher who can teach third graders, you know. So don't worry about having to have the highest and the best. Get with the third grade teacher first. And if you pass that course, get with the fourth grade teacher next. And if you pass that one, get with the fifth grade. Well, we got to shoot for the highest, and then we don't even understand it. And so we waste our time and we waste the teacher's time too. So this year we're going to be putting everything into practice. We're getting like where the rubber really meets the road. So on our Tuesdays and our Thursdays, maybe in a little different way, but in tandem with each other, we're going to be examining, figuring out, experimenting with, putting the essence of the teachings into practice in our life. Now, we always talk about the teachings, but I'm talking about the essence of it. The essence is how it actually benefits our lives and the lives of others, you know. Not the words on the paper, but how, whatever little bit we have, are we using that? And we want more, but are we using what we have? Have we come to the fulfillment, the fruition of what we already have so that we are worthy of more, worthy of greater knowledge, worthy of a deeper understanding? What have we done with what we have? Are we just grasping and clutching for more? And so today's lesson is called The Rainmaker. Is Jim Norris on? I can't see. Jim? O- Okay, is Jim Norris on? Okay, so he may not even come on today. The He may not come on today. I just wanted to know if he was there. He's not. Okay. So Jim Norris wrote a book a few years ago, and I'm using an excerpt from his book. So I thought he would be surprised. Somebody tell him he missed it today. And if we can put those words up on the screen, and then we're going to have two questions. Um, Question one and question two for discussion. I'm sorry, we have some technicians in training, so which is a beautiful sight. And I know Sister Clear Grace feels that way because she rarely gets to sit in the. And we can read this together. The Rainmaker. There was a great drought. For months, there had not been a drop of rain, and the situation became catastrophic. The Catholics made processions, the Protestants made prayers, and the Chinese burned joss sticks, but with no results. Finally, the Chinese said, "We will fetch the Rainmaker." And from another province, a dried up old man appeared. The only The only thing he asked for was a quiet little house somewhere, and there he locked himself in for 3 days. On the fourth day, the clouds gathered, and there was a great snowstorm. He was asked how he did it, and the little man said, "I did not make it. I'm not responsible." "But what have you done these 3 days?" he was asked. "Oh, I can explain that. I come from another country where things are in order. Here, they are out of order. They are not as they should be by the ordinance of heaven. Therefore, the whole country is not in Tao, and I also am not in the natural order of things, because I am in a disordered country. So I had to wait 3 days until I was back in Tao, and then naturally the rain came." And that's an excerpt from the collected works of Carl Jung and I took that from Jim Norris's book, Opening the Aloha Mind. And the Aloha Mind, Jim used to train in Ho'oponopono, and I've talked about what that is and how it became prevalent to the Westerners in the story of the prison warden who was sent to a psychiatric, to be in charge of a psychiatric facility for the criminally insane. And no one had ever left that facility. When he went in, they say that he did not see a single patient. He just took every file and put on his desk. And as if he was with each person and wrapping his mind with their mind, he began to just speak words over them. "I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you." And over the course of some years, all of the criminally, quote, insane recovered, and the facility was actually closed. Now, that's a true story. And so there is power in our practice when our practice is more than having a mental concept of things. It is important to have a mental concept, but we have to keep working with it and working with it until we birth it into a real thing. And what would that look like? How do we take things from just being a mental concept that, yeah, I know, to being something that is witnessable in the world? This is, not was, is, because they're still in the world today. This is the great witness of the sages throughout time. And what they offer is not just mere words, but the demonstration of it, the power of it in reality. And my master said, the only people who think you don't have to have any power in spiritual practice is those who don't have any, you know. And because they don't have any and they haven't seen any, they say, oh, well, he said, don't be concerned or worried about that. You don't have to be concerned or worried about it. Just have it. You know, is what I'm saying. And there's only one way that we get it. First, we have to walk in what we already say we know. And then we have to be able to rest in it so that the works that are done partly by our own hand are not seen as our works. And these are two different steps. And in that way, as Buddha Master said, then all worldly Dharma becomes Buddha Dharma. And we don't have to, again, divide and differentiate. Differentiation is only useful for showing where the gaps and the holes are. But once one really understands, then you close that gap. And there are no gaps and there are no holes. And we stop thinking of high and low and in and out. We just line up with the highest. And that's all we bring, and that's all we see. Everybody else just has complaints and criticisms. And so this is how we can get out of that criticizing way, or that way of our own thinking about ourselves and what it is that we need to do that feels comfortable for us, that feels good. I do a lot of things that are not comfortable for me, you know, but I don't do a lot of things also because it's not comfortable for me, you know. So you have to be truthful. You have to know where you are on the map, and you have to decide what you want to do. Do you like that? If you do, stay there, build a tent. If you don't, you can pack up your tent and you can move to higher ground. And that's the invitation I feel we have been offered this year. We're not going back, we're going forward. Some will make that trek with us, and some will choose to stay put. And that's okay. But each one is going to be called on. We're continually being called on to make a choice. If I could call this world anything, it's the world of making a choice, because we're constantly called on to choose. And we choose with the understanding that we have. That's why it's so good to have friends in the Dharma, you know? Because sometimes we have this understanding that's very apparent and plain to us. But there's another understanding, not even a different level of understanding, another side of understanding that we also have, but it's not so much in the forefront, you know? But when someone else speaks of it, then because that wasn't the side we were speaking about, we feel a need to kind of repel it so that our point stays our point. But the wise person recognizes that they're not one-dimensional or even two-dimensional. So although they may have a point, they can recognize and see another point. And they can recognize and see, I also have that point. You know, I also see that. And just by that dialogue occurring, one can better balance what had become their point. You know, and this is how we become full and well-rounded, lacking in no good thing. So that's why I welcome every conversation. I rarely don't have an opinion, but not being attached to one's opinion is the principal thing, because it's the attachment that gets us in trouble. Not having a point, but it's attaching to that point. And then we start defending that point, and we can't make progress because we're more like a block trying to go down a hill instead of a ball rolling. So this particular story, I like it very much. And it poses two questions for us. And we're going to break these out into discussions, and you can discuss one of them, you can discuss both of them. Um, the first, being in accord with heaven, and what that looks like in your life. The second, wisdom's measure and support was snow, not rain. So remember, it was a drought, and they're asking for rain. They're praying for rain, and they're calling on rain. And you may even come up with a third question or that you can pose in your groups. Come up with your own point, and you can discuss that. But the first one, being in accord with heaven, I think it is a question that we should constantly ask ourselves. I ask myself that question all the time. Am I in accord with heaven? And what that means, how it lands on you, what it looks like, what it looks what it looks like, being in accord. Not necessarily with what one wishes to do or how one wishes to go about it. It's fine that we have some plan. It's fine, that we want to contribute. It's fine that we take action. But it's not just what we do, it's how we do what we do and with what intention we do it. It's considering, am I the one to do it? Is this the time to do it? It's so many things that have to be weighed and measured. The mindfulness dedicated to it. Counting up the cost. It says, what king goes to war without counting up the cost? So even when we do something, it may cost us. Are you willing to pay the price of that? It may call for a sacrifice in some other area. Are you willing to do that? And when the time comes to sacrifice, do you get mad because you have to sacrifice? So we have to know what we're capable of handling, what we're capable of doing. Do we have the tenacity to see it through? Do we have the strength? But mostly, are we listening for the voice of wisdom to guide us in the endeavor? And when we hear it, can we stop and make this shift? Can we stop in our tracks and make the change? Regardless of what others might think or others might say. Sometimes it means standing alone at something. Can you do that? Sometimes it's going back when you just said no yesterday or yes yesterday, and going back and say, I misspoke. But once you've uttered it, can you correct if correction is called for. All of these things, and working through this, having a capacity, a willingness to do them, is what builds our faith in the Dharma in us. The Dharma in us. That's where the confidence comes from. That's where the strength comes from. That's where the security comes from. I mean, it doesn't like, doink, I got a dose of security. It comes as we walk out life through the lens of the Dharma. But walk it out, we must. So I think I spoke last week and I said, we have to switch up. We have to go in a direction because I got a signal we're out of accord with heaven. So I ran across this yesterday. And sometimes I'm going to tell you about insight. Sometimes you get insight before you can, or as a result of having an experience. And you get to see, oh, that's what that is. But sometimes you have an experience and then you get the 411 on what just happened, you know. So it comes in different ways. But if we look at something to always come through the front door, it may come through the back door or the side window. If we just miss it because it didn't come through the front door. So we have to, he talks about having that kind of vision, 360 degrees in front of you, behind you, to the left, the right, the four cardinal directions, the north, south, east, and west. And through our walking out, what we learn, you know, that's how we develop that 360 degree vision. Yeah. The second one is snow. Snow, not rain. I got it. You don't have to put it up. The second one is snow, not rain. Why snow and not rain? And I'm going to tell you what Dr. Jim said, and I loved it. He said, well, if you know anything about drought, and when we first moved to Hendersonville, the county had been in a 10-year drought. And I'd never seen things so green from where I came from. They have longer summer, spring, summer season here. And so I thought everything was wonderful, and they were like, no, we've been in a drought for 10 years, and the first place we but it had a creek, and the creek was about, the gorge was like 10 feet or 12 feet, but the creek itself was only about, maybe 1 foot of water, would you say, Ponyadeep? 2 feet, maybe 2 feet at the very most, which was enough water for me. So I just thought it was beautiful. You had the hill went down and 2 feet of water in the creek, and it was all lovely. But at one time, that creek had been full. It had been, uh, 10, 10 feet. Um, but, and it rained around here. But when it rains, as you notice, when it rains, it rains. It rains hard. It's like, go hard or go home. It rains hard and fast, and then it's over. Or sometimes it rains for days, and we have a flood downtown, almost every time it rains, because the rain comes hard and it comes fast, and then it's over. And so although there was adequate rain, not even in a drought or in a drought, there was rain, but because of the way it came hard and fast, it would run off. And so they would remain in a drought. But snow, as the rainmaker got in accord with heaven, in this harmony, what was needed came. Not what was asked for, but what was needed came. So being an instrument in that way. A lot of times, we are asked to do things, and we step forward to do it. But we have to be in a certain uh, frame of being, not just mind frame, but heart space too, to do it. Need a little more rounding, a little more balance. Taking better care of oneself so that one can stay in accord. Also being able to consider others so that one will be in accord. And this is such an easy way to live. We think it's hard because we're so attached to ourselves and our views and our ways and our I knows. And, so it's very difficult. I mean, it's easier for children, but it's very difficult for grown-ups. Yeah. And so when it snows, the snow lays, it settles, it seeps in and restores the moisture balance in the earth, as opposed to the heavy rain that they were praying for. So the good thing is that when we get in accord with what is pure and high and holy, transcendental, and I don't shy away from that word. The Buddha said this Dharma, and and not only the Dharma, but the whole package, the Dharma and the discipline. It's not going to be apprehendable by mere reasoning. It is transcendent in its nature, in its quality, and in its vastness. And if we will allow it to bring its wisdom, and we remain merely an instrument, that it can flow through, then it will take people, it will serve people, it will awaken people by its very manifestation. It's not so much work that we have to do. We shouldn't even think of it as work. We just have to be available. In the Bible it says, many are called, but few are chosen. And I was talking to my pastor one time, and I was telling her that I had something had been given to me to do, and I was only 18 at the time, and she said, and she quoted that on me. She said, "Many are called, but few are chosen." And then she added, "And we're the chosen ones." And she wasn't speaking of me and her; she's speaking of her and her sisters. And and she said, "So we need to join with you at your idea." And this was to establish something, a facility called Terrific. Stood for Temporary and Emergency Residential Resource Institute for Families in Crisis. Terrific. And as we went on and organized that, she said, because you're 18 and nobody's going to listen to you at 18. You're going to need us, you know, for this to be acceptable by the community. And so we set up a board, and at that time um, I had rented a 8-bedroom house, and I'm like all getting into it, you know, and we set up everything, and it was 3 of them and me, and then they had a board meeting. They called for a board meeting. I didn't get the memo, and our rule was majority rule. And they just voted me off the board, and they took the whole thing. But they couldn't take the gift. They couldn't steal my heart. And they couldn't take away from me the knowledge of purpose in this life. And so I want to say to you today, this is a great year, where there is so much need, there is so much more opportunity to just express the Buddha nature in this world where it's needed. So with all you're getting, get understanding. Mm. So we're going to break out in to groups, however, in there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 3 groups of 3. Um, uh, Once you break out into groups, can you all get into a group? Hello? Once we break into groups, can you all go into a group during that time? Okay. So we break it out into 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. And I've already talked, so I won't get in a group. And however many we have there, if you could break out into 3s and maybe 4. And what you're going to be discussing is the two the 2 questions. And the first was, why snow? Or just your thoughts around that. And sometimes, there's this point, but there are other points just as important that come up as a result of recognizing that one. So if it takes you on a little journey, that's okay. That's why we're sharing. If we're all going to share the same thing, no point in breaking out. If we're going to regurgitate what's up there, no point. But where is it touching you? Where is it leading you? What is it saying? What is it saying to you? Sharing your wisdom that it could also be saying something else. Like we ask for the wrong thing or we look for the wrong thing. I mean, whatever it is saying to you, what wisdom is speaking to you right now. Learning to hear how the voice of wisdom comes to you directly. How it shows itself to you. There are benefits to this path. If there's no benefit, why are we on it? There are benefits, but we have to look for the benefits, see them clearly, and cherish them. And you'll see that you're having them all the time. Just sometimes some of them feel really heavy, like a coat, but some feel as light as skin. You don't even feel it, but yet it was there. if one just had eyes to see. The what? Okay, how many? How many do we have? Oh, okay. All right, put the rest in the rooms then. What was the first question? You did. Oh, great. Okay. All right. And wisdom's measure. It's Buddha wisdom, connecting with Buddha wisdom, and know wisdom. How you know something inside from from praying, from seeking instruction. How one gets wisdom coming to know what to do. Okay. Okay. Um, I on. Okay. So we're gonna close out with our sharings today. Um, thank you so much. You know, when you start this kind of dialogue, we're all regurgitating what we already know, pretty much, because that's what happens when we get into groups with others. But in time, the comfort will come, and we will allow the insights to really arise. Oh, and we will see how the insight will be the correction, not what I already know. I just want to let y'all know, but it will be the correction because that's where the power is. It's when we realize something we didn't know before, and the sharing of it when it comes in that moment, the potency of that moment, that seed bursting open is so powerful, not just for you, but to the witnesses to your insight. you know. And then you can feel that connection, how we're all connected. And when one has an insight in that explosive moment, one gets a transmission of that other one's insight. And then like it's the difference between addition and multiplication is what I'm saying. So we can we can uh, accelerate. That's the word I'm looking for. We can accelerate the remedies. We can accelerate the time. We can compact. Something can become more compacted, more concentrated. Yeah, like as we move more and more into this into this kind of a groove. So I'm excited about what's unfolding this year. May you be well and happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you and no danger. May you always be able to meet with the inevitable difficulties of life. And going forward, partners will not be in the same room. So we forgot this time because I'd like for it to really be able to be a free flowing, exchange. And then if you all want to share later at home, then you can. Okay, everybody. See you Sunday.